Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. Hope you're all well and safe. About a week ago, I made a video on an app called Sketch Pro. It's got a really cool brush in it that took advantages of a repeat pattern on the texture. I wondered if I could reproduce that brush or something very similar in Procreate. This is a painting that I did with the brush that I created. I'm really chuffed with it, so let's just see how I went about making it. You may have seen a recent video I made of an app called Sketch Pro, and it had got these really cool brushes. I thought they were cool, sort of repeat pattern texture brushes, and it got me to thinking, can you get a brush or make a brush like that in Procreate? Because I thought it was a really cool feature, and I painted this little sparrow using these brushes. So I went to the brushes and found that there in the texture pack, or the texture brushes, there is one brush that fits this criterion. This is the Victorian brush. So if I select that and start painting with it, you'll see that it's very similar to the brush, the way the brush worked in Sketch Pro, except when I change the size of the brush, it changes the size of the pattern. So that's not really what I wanted. So I thought, can I get the adjust the brush to make it sort of stay at one size? So I went into the features of the brush, or the editing of the brush, and look for the pattern which comes under grain. So if you go through these, look for grain, and then we've got this behavior here. It says moving or texturized. So I select texturized. As soon as you do that, this menu changes, and we've got a scale which we can slide up and down to get the size of the brush. Click done, back to painting, and now when I paint, it doesn't matter how big my brush is, the pattern stays the same, which is kind of what I want. And it's this repeat pattern that just keeps repeating itself, funnily enough. So let's just go back to that again. If I go to the grain, I can adjust the scale with this. 34% around there was a pretty reasonable size. So that's cool, but I've only got one brush. So how about making my own brushes? That might be a nice idea. So I went off to, I wanted to make my own patterns, but making a repeat pattern is a bit complex. So I went to a few websites to find some patterns. So where do you get your repeat patterns from? Obviously you can make your own, but that would be a completely different video. It's a complicated process to create your own repeat patterns. Or you can go to resources on the internet. So as you see here, I've got one of my favorite source file websites called Pixabay. This website's really cool because all of the images are in the public domain, perhaps not public domain, but they are all available, free to use, no copyright on them. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to worry about having to get a license if it's being used commercially or anything. You're free to use these. So you just go along to Pixabay and type in repeat pattern. Then you can see you get all of these images coming up, and there are quite a few pages, 13 pages. This is page 5 of 13 to choose from. And another website I went to was public domain pictures.net. I'll put a link in the description for both of these. And again, I've done a search. This time I just searched for the word pattern. When I tried to search for repeat pattern, the images that are coming up weren't as good as these, and I've took some of those images and downloaded them. They don't have to be square, they can be rectangular in shape, like this sunflower pattern here, but they are better if they are square, and I'll explain why that is when we get back into Procreate. So once I downloaded my images and converted them to black and white, I also had to invert them as well. I was then able to create my own brushes. So if I go to Steve's brushes, you'll see I've got these 4 texture patterns. So let's just open up. I'm going to go with this one. And you can see here that the pattern that I've loaded in is distorted. And I said earlier, you don't have to have a square pattern, but it's better if you do. And this is why. If you're working in the scale mode, it works perfect. But if you change the mode to move in, then it sort of squashes it to fit in a square, and you get this sort of distorted look. So that's why you need square images, square repeat patterns, although if you're working in the texturized mode, it doesn't really matter too much. So how do I create these brushes? If I go to this repeat pattern, basically what I did, let's do it with the proper steps, the way I did it. I go to textures, scroll down, I chose this Victorian brush and I duplicated it. That was the first step, and then I selected that, went to grain, went to edit, import, and I've got mine in a folder called files, or in the files on the cloud. And then you can see I've got some images here that are repeat patterns, so I could choose this one, and it looks distorted, but choose done. When I actually paint with it, it's fine because I've got the texturized pattern on. And all you need to do then really is just play around with the scale until you get the size of pattern you want. So that's probably a little bit small, so I just go back in and tweak it a little bit. There we go, and that's it. That's how you create the brushes, and then obviously you can change the colours, and away you go. So let's have a go at painting something with these brushes, because I really got into it with the Sketchtree app, but it was £10, which is the same price as Procreate. And that was the only really cool feature that I liked about it, and I wanted to know if I could sort of do something similar in Procreate. So let's see. I'm just going to put in some sort of texturized background to start with, and I'm thinking of like drawing a tree of life maybe, or something like that. I don't know. So I'm just sort of getting some textures in. Don't like that one, that's a bit too much. This brush I'm using, by the way, it's a texture brush because I thought I'd work with texture brushes, and it's called Rectango, and I've copied them all into Steve's brushes. It's just a folder I use for when I want to work with a set of brushes, because I'm going to use the dry ink brush as well. but sort of I've got a bit of a texture going off, and then I can create a new layer, and I want to just use black ink, and I think I'm going to go with this repeat pattern here. Brush. Oh, I was on my PC then trying to make the brush a bit bigger. So used to drawing on that, and then just pop in some leaves. There we go. I'm just wondering if that pattern's a bit too small. I think it is, so I'm just going to tweak it a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. Let's try that. That's a bit better. I just thought this was really cool, a cool feature, a funky way of doing something a little bit different. So I've drawn some leaves on that one. Let's change the brush to this repeat pattern down here for the foreground. Change my brush again to the ink brush, because what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use this now to draw some shapes, make up my tree. There we go. I could have a little bit of water in front of this, I suppose, by choosing this brush I've made down here. I could do, but I'm not going to, because I don't like it. Let's just get that undone. Go back to my drawing brush again. Oops, I missed it. I'm just wondering, I said this was like the tree of life. So if I come in up here, should I, let's just create a new layer. Just see if I can in bit of a raven or something. Just there like that. Go back to the bird layer. Choose the eraser. What brush have I got on the eraser? The grunge brush. I'm going to actually select the rectangle brush and just oh too much, man, too much. Make the size a bit smaller. Just make a little hole so you can see my bird. I could add some more colour to this, I suppose, if I wanted. Assign this. So a tree of life drawn with repeat pattern brushes, used with textures from Pixabay, and I can't remember the name of the other website. Hang on, I've a quick look. publicdomainpictures.net. So I'll put links in the description below for them if you want to grab some images. And what about repeat patterns? Do you want me? Would it be useful to make a lesson on how to actually create your own repeat pattern? Put a comment in the description below. Let me know, and if anybody wants me to do that, I sure I can come up with something. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It was quite fun to make. If you did, big thumbs up as always is much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I have loads of videos like this and I'd love to be sharing them all with you. And don't forget, everybody, stay safe, stay sane, and keep painting. And hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.